Scott Hill and with Hill People Gear, and I'm here to talk about our two signature knives, the Coyote and the Fox. Quick tale of the tape: the Coyote is 5/32 thick with a 3.5 inch blade, 8.25 inches overall, and weighs 5.92 ounces without a sheath. The Fox is 1/8 inch thick, is a 3 3/8 inch blade, and 7 3/4 inches overall, and weighs 4.8 ounces without a sheath. So we get a lot of questions about why we did certain things on the knives, and to get there I'm going to go back to this knife, which is one of the two knives that Dad had when we were growing up. It was made for him by a custom maker out of St. Ignatius, Montana, by the name of Roberts Ruth, who we later found out worked for Randall back in the day. We call it the moose handle knife because these are actually moose antler from a moose that Dad killed back in the day, and it's a knife that Mom had custom made for Dad for a present. I don't know if it's a anniversary or birthday or what, but we grew up with this knife. Ironically, if you fast forward to when I bought my Randall, it was the Randall that this knife was based off of, which was the Trapper's model, or 124. And then later on, when I started carrying a fixed blade full time, I ended up with this blackjack that Evan got for me, which is basically an exact copy of the Randall except for in the smaller size. And so needless to say, when we decided to come out with our own knife style, we went with a blade that we've been using for years, a shape that was kind of tried and true. But rather than just copy the Randall design like the other knives, the moose handle and the blackjack, we improved it. We fixed some things that we kind of felt were wrong with the Randall to start with, and that's kind of how we came up with the features on the Coyote. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Coyote as the knife to show you kind of the details. So first thing, blade shape. It's a drop point hunter, and what that means is if you look at it, the point is actually in line with the middle of the scales and drops down from that. That becomes important when you're trying to use it for puncturing packages, as an awl for leather working and stuff like that, which we kind of wanted it to be a general purpose knife. A knife that we can use for everything that we feel a knife should be used for. Opening packages, prepping food, preparing game, caping out animals. And since we have been doing martial arts off and on for 30 years now, we did also want it to work for some defensive and offensive uses, because we feel that a tool should be applicable across the whole gamut of uses. So we've got that drop point hunter. Moving back, the next thing you'll notice is we have these nice wedges, which while they are nice looking, they actually have a purpose, and that purpose is to allow you to carry the full thickness of the point all the way out, which gives you a stronger point, but it also cuts weight, because if you look at it, you'll see that it's ground down. So we have a full thickness to the tip, but we've cut weight here. And as we wanted these knives to be a good daily carry, we wanted to get them light as possible. The next thing that you'll notice is we have almost a full grind on it. Full grind does a couple of things for us. Again, cuts weight because it removes material pretty much all the way up to the spine. The other thing it does is it allows it to slice better, because if you look at it, there's just simply less material to drag through the cut. If you look at knives that have more of a Scandia grind or that, where they're flat all the way down and then have the tip down at the very end, you'll see that there's a lot more material to grind there to drag through the cut than a full ground, because full ground, it just tapers up, so as you cut in, it's pulling into that cut. Continuing to move back, you'll notice that the Randall style has this big choil cutout, which on a larger blade allows you to choke up so that you can do finer work with it. Obviously, on a knife the size of the Blackjack 124 or the Coyote, they're small enough blades already, so the choil really kind of didn't make any sense to us to have in there. So instead of doing that, we removed the choil, which gives us a longer overall blade length, but in a shorter overall size. From there, lower guard. We did that a couple different ways. I'll talk a little bit more about the reason we went this style when I'm talking about the Fox specifically, but what that does is gives us a reference point both for work You can use it as a pivot point, but it also keeps your hand from sliding forward. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, why would your hand slide forward? Well, having used a knife to dress out game when my hands are numb, it sure is nice to have a physical stop so you know where your hand is at without worrying about it getting forward when it's already kind of slippery and stuff with that, and as I said, numb, because you can't feel what's going on. It does have also defensive applications, because if you're doing a hard press with the tip, your hand can't slide forward. From there, and this is another big departure that we did from the Randall style, is the Randall style has what's called a rat tail tang, meaning the blade shape comes all the way down, but it thins down to this little tiny round shape here, which actually a nut is used to hold it on, and it's simply not as sturdy as doing a full tang. If you look here, you'll see that the full tang is the full shape of that handle, which simply gives it a lot more durability and strength. We have cut out holes in there to make it light, but again, cut out holes is still going to be stronger with an overall full tang knife. From there, another thing we like about doing the full tang knife is we can do scales, which allows you to get a better shape on it. With the round style, you're kind of stuck with whatever shape material you have, whether it's the round of this wood or the scales of the moose antler, which can fit your hand great or can be too round so the knife rolls in your hands. Using scales, it really gives you the ability to shape them so that you get a nice firm grip, a comfortable grip, which is important. Scales on this knife are our standard canvas micarta. Why canvas micarta? Simply put, it gets grippier when it's wet. So right now it's nice and smooth, my hand's gliding over it. I'm not going to get any hot spots or wear points if I'm doing a lot of cutting with it, which you can get with some of the more scalloped scales that are popular right now. But because of the micarta, as I said, when it gets wet, it opens up the pores in the canvas micarta and it gets grippier. So just when your hand is getting more slicky, you're getting more grip. So we've got that, and finally the pommel. We went back and forth on this. Obviously, if we're making more of a fighting knife, going to something with a more of a point so you can use that pommel would be good, but we wanted a knife that you could use comfortably in a couple of cap grips. You know, I can do this here if I'm trying to do a divot for a fire kit, or if I'm trying to put a hole in a belt, fix a piece of leather where I need to run lanyards through. It gives me that nice pivot point so I can get in there. Oh, real quick about the spine. Personally, we don't like sharp spines. They are a thing in the knife culture today because people say that you need to be able to use your fire striker or do other stuff with it. We decided to go with a sharper spine, and we personally break them so they're not as sharp, so that we can put fingers on them to do other tasks, especially if we're trying to do fine work. So that's kind of an overview of the general features of the knife. One thing I forgot to mention is A2 steel. Why A2 steel? A2 steel is a nice tough steel. It holds an edge a long time. It's relatively easy to sharpen, and it's very easy to touch up. So if you keep it sharp all the time, you don't worry about it. To my knowledge, the first animal processed with a fox knife was a roadkill beaver that Evan's wife skinned out to practice taxidermy on, you know, curing the hide and whatnot. And that was this knife. It did the entire beaver without ever needing to be touched up and was still sharp afterwards. Whereas some of the other tools, other steels that you go with may be better for carbon sparking and stuff like that. Carbon steels, they rust easier and they just don't hold their edges long. So that's why we prefer a tool steel like A2 steel. The Coyote knife was originally conceived of as an everyday carry knife, a knife that'll do everything you want from back country to front country. In pack parlance, it would be a ute. That being said, it is a little big if you're looking for that true pocket knife replacement, which is why we came out with the Fox knife. And as you see, not a lot smaller, but it carries a lot smaller. And that's because of some of the decisions that we made. Obviously, same blade style. We did go with its thinner steel, so overall it's going to be thinner. We also did away with the brass lower guard and went to an integrated. Again, we have our hand stop. We have that nice pivot point so we can use it for stuff, but without that extra thickness of the brass, it makes the knife both thinner and weigh less. This is Evan's personal knife. Yes, we do sometimes get stuff fancy for ourselves, so he went a little bit fancy for himself with black micarta and turquoise, but you also see that it's a lot thinner overall profile than we did on the Coyote. Doesn't fit the hand quite as well. I wear a extra large glove typically, and you can see that I can still get a full hand grip on it. So even though we've kind of slimmed it down, made it a little smaller, it's still plenty big for using. And the final difference we did is we have a little bit of swell on our scales at the front, so again it mimics a little bit of that guard without making the knife overall largely. With the advent of the Fox knife, we also did something a little different, which was work with Chattanooga Leather Works to come up with sheaths specifically for each knife. As we pictured the Fox knife as a true pocket knife replacement, we wanted to go with more of a pocket sheath style, and we came up with this. So very much a standard scabbard, taco style scabbard. Knife sits plenty deep in there. Because of this curve, you can grab it and pull it out very easily, either forward grip or reverse grip. Either way, you can hook into that. It comes with a discrete carry concepts clip, but as you can see, we've got different height carries, so you can set how far it carries up or down. It'll also take utility clips, other sizes of the discrete carry concept clip, and the way I carry it is I've taken that off and I run a single belt strap, and so I carry it in cross in front so I can get it with either hand. So it does that well. It sits deep enough in there that, as you can see, I'm kind of playing with this, and it's not really doing that. That's because good leather is going to mold around the knife over time and give you that tight fit. We also decided to do a sheath for the Coyote, again with Chattanooga Leather Works, and on this we wanted to do something a little bit more belt oriented, but also something that could be carried on one of our kit bags and something that you could carry over different size belts. And this is what we came up with. To my knowledge, nobody else is doing anything like this. It's simply a leather strap with two different buttons, two different snaps. The bottom snap is a pull dot snap, and that allows you to lace it down through MOLLE, so you get two layers of MOLLE and pull the dot. Or if you want to run it over a bigger belt, let me fight this pull the dot, run it over a bigger belt, you actually have a full 2-inch slot that you can go up to, so you can put it on a bigger gun belt, that kind of thing if you want. The other piece of the puzzle on this sheath is we wanted to keep it really slim, but we wanted to give it some positive retention, and we borrowed from Randall. The sheath that came with my Trapper's model Randall had a deeper pouch on it and had this kind of snap thing, and it took me a little bit to figure out this trick, but the way it's designed is with that snap, it's retention. I've got positive retention, but if you yank it, it's going to pop that pull the dot snap. So what we have here is a very slim sheath. You can see we've got it tapered in, so around the knife it's just as big as it wants, and then we've got the pull the dot. So you can literally, you'll see on Evan's pictures that he carries one upside down like this on his SAR kit bag all the time with no worries about retention, because we've got that positive retention on the snap. But if you need to, you can also get that pull and do the draw. So that's kind of a breakdown of the sheaths that we personally use for these knives, how we use them, and an overview of the Coyote and Fox knife by Hill People Gear.